Welcome back, everybody, to the First and 49ers podcast. The 49ers beat the Seahawks 17-13 in the first opener of the season for the 49ers. Niners are 1-0. Big game for the Niners to start at Lumen Field. A lot to talk about in this game. Purdy had two bad interceptions, bounced back, came back strong for the 49ers, brought it all the way back with a touchdown to end the game for the Niners. McCaffrey returned. Unsung hero catching the final touchdown. Jake Tonges coming up in the clutch for the Niners. Bosa putting the hammer down to end the game for the Niners, sealing it for them. Plus, I'm giving my first dog of the week for the season, guys. So stay tuned. And we've got some breaking news that just happened moments ago, guys. So stay tuned. All right, so I think we should start with the breaking news that just happened a little bit ago, and it is 49ers first. We'll start off with Colton McKivitz. The 49ers signed him to a 3-year deal. I'll share it on my screen here. Adam Schefter, Kendrick Bourne. All right, here he is. Colton's here. 49ers starting right tackle have reached an agreement on a 3-year, $45 million deal, including $27 million guaranteed per Doug Hendrickson. And this was the last year of Colt McKivitz's deal. We knew that the 49ers were thinking about re-signing McKivitz. We knew that McKivitz was wanting a new deal at the beginning of the season. He said he's looking to have a Pro Bowl caliber season. And I think this is a great thing for the 49ers. Something that we don't see a lot of is getting deals done early. We saw it with Diamador Lenore last season, which was great. And now after this first game of the season, the 49ers signed Colt McKivitz. Now, is McKivitz a great offensive tackle? He's not the best, you know. He's more of the middle of the pack kind of guy, but the 49ers see the value in McKivitz. And just with the offensive line that the 49ers have, it's the middle of the pack kind of thing. If you guys watched a couple of my podcasts a couple of weeks ago before the season started, I talked about how the 49ers don't invest so much in this offensive line. They don't have that big meaty line like the Eagles have, you know, but they have a manageable offensive line, and that's what the 49ers have done with Colt McKivitz, and it's not a bad signing. If you guys watch the SF Niners, Brad Graham, he's saying how this is a great deal, and Colt McKivitz is the middle of the pack kind of guy, and I can show it here again, sharing on my screen. I'll replace it here, just showing what McKivitz did yesterday's game. He didn't have an awful game, and like I said, he's the middle of the pack kind of guy. We saw his overall grade here, 62.3, pass blocking grade 85.1, which is above average, which is actually kind of shocking. And then run blocking grade 52, so just below average. And I'm going to get into Kendrick Bourne in a couple minutes, Ben Sander. But yeah, so Colt McKivitz anyway, signing that 3-year deal for the 49ers. And it's not a steal, but it's a middle of the pack kind of deal. And we look at, I don't have it up here now, but some of the deals that the other offensive tackles are making in the league, this is a good deal for the 49ers that they did here for them. So let's get into it, though. Yeah, I think this is the bigger news today. Kendrick Bourne. What do I think about Kendrick Bourne signing the 1-year deal worth a max of $5 million per Adam Schefter? And hey, I think it really came down to the 49ers. Juwan Jennings going down yesterday with a shoulder injury. George Kittle yesterday with a hamstring injury. Kendrick Bourne wasn't signing. He didn't sign in with anybody week one because he said he wanted to see how everything unfolds in week one. And obviously now it worked out perfect for the 49ers. We got Kendrick Bourne because it was between him and the Commanders. And it's good to see him back. You know, he was a serviceable guy for the 49ers back from 2017 and 2020. And then once we drafted Juwan Jennings, I felt like Jennings was the 2.0 version of Bourne. And it's kind of funny how things just kind of go full circle. So I am kind of happy that Bourne is back. It is unfortunate to know, though, that he is back because of the injuries now that we have. Juwan Jennings out there with the shoulder injury. And I don't know how bad this injury is going to be for him, because I don't know if you guys saw on the sideline, he was grimacing like really bad, just like throughout the game after he suffered that injury, and he had a shoulder brace on there. So hopefully it's nothing too serious. I do know that Kittle and Jennings, I think, are getting MRIs today on their injuries. What do I think of the offensive line signing this morning? Yeah, I just talked about it. Niners faithful, and like I said, Colton McKivitz, he's a middle of the pack kind of guy, but Brad Graham from the SF Niners just talked about it, and he's a big offensive line guru. He said this is a good deal for the 49ers because McKivitz is a middle of the pack guy, and the Niners gave him middle of the pack signing, 27 million guaranteed. I was talking about it with my dad as well. This is kind of like the money that the 49ers are probably going to give Jawan Jennings because they offered him a 3-year, $16 million deal per year deal. He turned it down ultimately. So then with that money there, I guess we signed Colt McKivitz with it. I've never been too high on McKivitz, but I just showed his stats from last game, and he was an average player yesterday. And we have to give the Seahawks defensive line their kudos because they played really well. That defensive line for the Seahawks is really really good. But Kendrick Bourne, I'm happy to see him back here. I think he's going to be a good target for Purdy with Jennings out and with Kittle out. And at the same time, too, I talked about this yesterday on the 49ers 24/7 podcast. Richie Bonzel brought it up, is that now Kendrick Bourne's contract isn't guaranteed throughout the season. So if we would have signed him for week one, his contract would have been guaranteed for the season. Now that we signed him for week one or after week one, we could cut him if we want later on in the season. I think it's potentially something the 49ers might do because we've got to remember Demarcus Robinson. He's coming back from the suspension after week 3. He'll be back, and he looked great in the preseason. And then Brandon Ayuk as well, obviously later down the line, week 6 or later. And then Kittle, he has a hamstring injury, and we get into that a little bit now with the injury report. Kittle suffered a hamstring injury after that awesome 95-yard touchdown drive, which I'll also get into that a little bit there. Capped it off with the Kittle touchdown on the out route to the end zone. Suffered a hamstring. It didn't look terribly bad because he wasn't he wasn't on the ground or anything, but it is obviously a hamstring, and hamstrings are really unpredictable. We don't really know what to expect from that. Hopefully he's out maybe 2 weeks. Hopefully he can come back earlier if that's the case. Jawan Jennings as well suffered a shoulder injury, and I don't know if you guys saw that. It happened in the fourth quarter. It was an illegal contact, so we got a first down on the play, but I couldn't even see it on the screen. I think Jennings got shoulder checked by one of the Seahawks defenders. So that's not good for the 49ers. Already, we talked about it all before the season started, the depleted wide receiver room. And now Jennings, after coming back, is injured now, which just really sucks because I love Jennings, man. And hopefully it's nothing serious, but him and Kittle are going to get MRIs today. So I think we'll know more later. I don't know if Shanahan's doing a press conference about that today. But anyway, Sam Okuyonanu, I can never pronounce his name right, the defensive lineman, he suffered a concussion. I think concussion protocol. I think he came back in the game. And then obviously this wasn't on the injury report, but Trent Williams early on in the game got his knee rolled up on, and he talked about it after the game. He came back in, obviously. Hopefully he's okay. Trent Williams, I think he's only had 2 full seasons that he's played. So it's bad that is a knee injury. Hopefully that he's okay. Hopefully he's back for week 2, because if Trent Williams goes down, I feel like the whole 49ers team goes down, you guys, And then Dom Pooney, he did come back into the game though. And then Dom Pooney, who did suffer that knee sprain earlier on in the preseason, also came back in after, I think, getting rolled up on again with his knee, but he came back, and the dude's just a baller. And that's just what you love. These guys are just bruisers, I mean, coming back from knee discomfort, knee injuries, they're able to come back in and play. So that's the injury report after the game. Hopefully nothing serious for Pooney and Trent Williams, because this offensive line, they didn't play the greatest yesterday. But once again, the defensive line for the Seahawks is just absolutely amazing. And now I think we just got to get into let's start off with the offensive start that the 49ers had. The first drive of the game, 49ers beat Seahawks, you guys are just tuning in, 17-13. And let's just dive in. They started off hot. The 95-yard drive, 49ers were pinned back at the 5-yard line, and they just drove down the field. The 49ers offense was starting off hot, and that's something I feel like you don't get to see a lot from the 49ers early on in the season. You kind of see them, it's kind of a slow start. Sometimes, I mean, it's happened multiple times. It's had like a 3-and-out to start the first game of the season. The Niners had to travel 95 yards, and they capped it off with a touchdown. Right off of the bat there, I thought the 49ers were going to go crazy. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. We still won the game, thankfully, but it cooled off a bit. The Seahawks defense was giving us some fits. Purdy wasn't the greatest, and I'll talk about that too. But the Ricky Pearsall connection, I really want to talk about that. That totally carried over from the preseason. I forgot what game it was, but I think it might have been the second game where the 49ers had their starters out there, and we saw Purdy hit Pearsall, it seemed like 1, 2, 3 times in a row. And now we got to see that in the game yesterday against the Seahawks. Pearsall had 4 catches, I think, for 108 yards. So that connection is real. Pearsall looks fast. He looks great. He looks like the 31st overall pick that the 49ers drafted him for. He looked like that type of player right there. He looked like the 31st overall pick. The dude looks like a baller. And I just can't wait to continue to see this connection between him and Purdy as the season goes on. Certified wide receiver one, probably the entire season, because even if when Brandon Ayuk does come back, he's not going to look the same as he did, previously before the ACL tear. So I'm still shocked Niners faithful on the team, on Moody on the team. I'm guessing no one else is good enough to replace him. No, there's definitely guys. There's definitely guys on the streets better than Moody that the 49ers can replace him with. And it was Greg Joseph who the 49ers had the kicking competition with. The 49ers went with Jake Moody instead of Greg Joseph. But I feel like almost anybody that's a free agent that's a kicker out there is going to be better than Moody. I think we can expect any kicker out there to be more consistent than Moody, at least making 27-yard field goals that obviously Jake Moody can't make. And it's just ridiculous. But yeah, guys, the 49ers offense started off hot with a 95-yard touchdown. And the anticipation, that's another thing. If you guys go back and watch the game, and that's something that you get to see a lot of with Purdy and Pearsall, is that they are tuned in together. Purdy's throwing the ball 5 yards before Pearsall even breaks out of his cut, or even before he turns his head around, and the ball's right there for Pearsall. Purdy knows where he wants him to be, and Pearsall's there for him. So I'm loving this Pearsall and Purdy connection early on. And like I said, he had 4 receptions, 108 yards, and let's see Pearsall get more catches, in the next game. I really hope it happens, especially now that arguably 2 of our best receivers are now down with Kittle and Jennings. And let's shift now to Brock Purdy. He had an up and down kind of game. Started off hot, like I said, 95-yard touchdown drive. But he had 4 dumb passes in this game, and he was 1 for 3 on these dumb passes. In the third quarter, he had that first interception that was intended for Juwan Jennings. It was picked off by Ernest Jones. And it was a Jimmy G-esque kind of play. It was off his back foot, trying to make something happen. He threw it over the middle, and the linebacker was just there to pick it off. That was just really ugly. And that's, again, I'm going to talk about a little bit here, but might as well say it now. Purdy last year talked about, or at the end of the season, before the season came about, he was talking about how he really was trying to force things down the field last season because, the 49ers were really injury depleted. He was just trying to be a superhero. He was trying to be like Josh Allen from yesterday's game, throwing passes that only Josh Allen can make. Purdy's not that type of quarterback. But then he said that he needed to clean that up from last season. And what did he go out to do against the Seahawks? He did the same thing. He had 2 stupid picks in this game, trying to do too much when he can't do that, The second one was fourth quarter in quadruple coverage that was floated to Pearsall. And once again, I don't know if he was throwing off the back foot on that one, but he was just trying to make something happen when nothing was there. Just don't force the ball down the field, Purdy. You're not that type of quarterback, If you don't see it open, I'd like to see him use his legs a little more if he can. He's speedy enough, or just throw the ball away, throw it to your check down guy. Don't try to force things down the field if nothing's there. It just looked like Jimmy G out there with those 2 picks, and I just hope he doesn't regress like that. I hope he learned from his mistakes, and he obviously knows that he can't be doing that, and yet he still did it. So hopefully he makes that transition into week 2. We don't see that type of play from Brock Purdy. But then he had that one jump pass. I think it was in the first quarter that almost got picked off, intended for Brian Robinson. I don't know. Once again, he was trying to be like Patrick Mahomes out there. He jumped up and threw the ball to Brian Robinson, and it almost got picked off. It was behind him and everything. So I don't know what Purdy was doing. Right there, he was 0 for 3. Luckily, that one didn't get picked off. And then the fourth one actually did pay off. It was the Patrick Mahomes-esque play where you get lucky. He threw it up, couldn't find anybody open, scrambled all the way to the right side, just threw it up to Tonges, and it was a way better catch than it was a throw. 9 times out of 10, that's getting picked off. The 49ers lose the game. They're 0-1. Jake Tonges was the savior of this game for the 49ers outside of Nick Bosa. But that was the fourth dumb pass that Purdy had in the game. And luckily, he had a good final drive. And we could talk about that too. It was a dumb pass. It paid off for the 49ers. But this last drive for Brock Purdy, 49ers were down. What does he have to do? He has to drive this team down the field and win football games for this team. Started off good, was pretty wishy-washy in the middle of the game with the 2 bad picks. But then when it mattered most, and this is something we haven't seen a lot from Brock Purdy, I feel like, but now the newly paid quarterback for the Niners, big time quarterback now, drove the guys down in the fourth quarter, all the way down the field, and won the game for the Niners. So, and that's what you want to see from your quarterback. You're going to get lucky with some of those touchdowns once in a while. So I'm happy with the way Brock Purdy ended this game, because even the drive before then also wasn't that great. I think the Seahawks stopped him before then. But I'm happy. It was a great drive too. I think they had the 45-yard pass to Ricky Pearsall, wide open almost. Tariq Woolen, by the way, terrible cornerback. But that's besides the point. Christian McCaffrey, though, Wednesday before the game, we saw that Christian McCaffrey was on the injury report, limited with a calf injury. And, it was just deja vu all over again, 2024 season, where nothing came up with him on the injury news last season. And then all of a sudden he had this calf injury. It derailed his entire season. Fortunately for the 49ers, fortunately for Christian McCaffrey, he played in this game. Everyone was saying, no, it's not a big concern. And McCaffrey was saying it wasn't a concern. He came out, he played the entire game, the whole time. Every time he got tackled, I was just watching that calf. I was like, is it all right? Is it all right? And it was all right. Christian McCaffrey, I pulled up the stats here. He played the entire game, 29 touches, I think for 69 yards, 22 attempts. He was 3.1 yards per carry, which isn't fantastic. But I think you can once again credit the Seahawks defensive line. And then he split some reps with Brian Robinson, 49ers newly acquired running back. He had 9 attempts, 33 yards, 3.7 attempts per carry. I'm loving this duo already. The 49ers have it in the backfield, the CMC and Brian Robinson thing. And I've talked about this before, is we have to be able to manage Christian McCaffrey. The 49ers don't manage Christian McCaffrey. He's more than likely going to get injured. In the 49ers Super Bowl run, he was getting almost every single snap, almost every single carry in these games. When the 49ers were even up 14 points, 10 points, games that were already put away with 5 minutes left in the game, and the 49ers still had him out there. And that's just how you just add miles onto Christian McCaffrey that you don't need. And Shanahan, I think he's starting to learn from it, because yesterday, and I want to see it a lot more, but they split some carries. McCaffrey had 22, Robinson had 9. I'd like to see that more of McCaffrey having 18 carries and Brian Robinson have like 13, But I think we're in the right direction now, where we're actually having, a solidified running back 1 with Brian Robinson now as running back 2, but he's fully capable to, to be the running back for the 49ers. And if the 49ers continue to split these reps even a little bit more, this could be the perfect formula for Christian McCaffrey to have a fully healthy season and hopefully go into the playoffs healthy like that. So that was just huge there. I think that was just one of my tidbits there. I don't know what you guys think about Christian McCaffrey and the Bijan Robinson. I wish Brian Robinson kind of splitting a little bit of reps in the backfield. Did you guys notice that? I thought that was huge. Just a little thing. Obviously, it wasn't that much, but it was a little more. It was more than I expected. So I was really happy to see Shannon actually doing that for the Niners. Let's shift. Let's shift to how good this defense looked with Robert Saleh back, guys. It's a complete 180 to what the 49ers looked like last year on defense. Robert Saleh back, commanding this defense. He's the second head coach for the 49ers. And he's got these guys disciplined now. I was worried about it going into the game. I was saying if the 49ers were to lose this game, it was going to be because of this defense, not because of Robert Saleh, but just because of how many new pieces the 49ers had. They spent, I think, 10 draft picks this year on defensive players. And, I didn't see a lot of Alfred Collins, CJ West, Michael Williams. I saw he got triple teamed a couple times, which is kind of crazy. But I was pleasantly surprised with how this defense played. And they only let the Seahawks score 13 points on them. It was kind of, it was kind of concerning in the beginning. The Seahawks were running the ball a little bit on the Niners, but we made the adjustments. Saleh was able to make the adjustments, and the defense was able to execute it. If we want to talk about rookies that did great, Marquise Siegel, the 49ers safety who got the nod as the starting safety. By the way, he was the first starting safety the 49ers have had, first rookie starting safety the 49ers have had since 2013, which was Eric Reed. He played a good game. The dude is physical. He was making some tackles out there, Upton Stout. And he was the one I was, at the beginning of the game, I was like, man, he's getting torched left and right. The Seahawks were picking on him. He had the PI, which I don't think was PI. What do you guys think? Was that PI on that touchdown? Or it wasn't a touchdown, but on Njigba, it was more of a hold, and the ball was just totally not even catchable. And the Seahawks ended up scoring a touchdown there. And then, just got Just got torched a couple times, but then throughout the game, Stout was continually getting better, and I think we can expect that from him as the season continues. There's going to be growing pains because the 49ers defense is so young, but I was pleasantly surprised with how they played. And then D. Winters, year 2 linebacker, coming in this year, filling in for Dre Greenlaw's old spot. And the dude was a monster out there. He was making tackles left and right. He was hitting hard. There was one play, he didn't make the tackle here, but he was disrupting the play a little bit, putting pressure on Sam Darnold. And he just absolutely took out the offensive lineman. I don't know if you guys saw it, but the dude, he just absolutely pushed a fridge over, I'm super excited like that to have him on this team. The 49ers have not missed with linebackers. We've had it since 2017, well, maybe not 27, but yeah, actually 2017, I think we had Bowman still. But consistently having Fred Warner out there, Quan Alexander, Dre Greenlaw, Azeez Al-Shaair, and now we got looks like the new tandem with Fred Warner and D. Winters, and I'm just so excited to continuing to see how D. Winters plays throughout the entire season. The 49ers had 2 takeaways in this game as well, guys. And the 49ers, they were 18th in the league last year with takeaways, with only 17. So right off the bat, that's 2 takeaways. And there were 2 huge takeaways, by the way. Sam O had a forced fumble that Marquise Siegel, the rookie, recovered. And then to end the game, Nick Bosa did what he was supposed to do. The Seahawks were driving down the field, and I was getting kind of scared. That's the funny thing about this game, is that the whole narrative would have switched probably to, oh, the defense choked this game, because the Seahawks were driving down the field after the 49ers scored in the fourth quarter. They were driving down. They were torching some of our guys. I think Renardo Green got torched a couple times there. But in the red zone, when it mattered most, Nick Bosa pushed the right tackle right into Sam Darnold's arm, and Sam Darnold fumbled the ball, recovered by Nick Bosa. And that's what you pay Nick Bosa for, And I talked about this yesterday on the Red and Gold 24/7 podcast, is Nick Bosa, if he would have done that, this is the type of player you pay, obviously. He's the best, one of the best in the league. He didn't do that in the Super Bowl. He wasn't the finisher. Yesterday in week 1, we saw him be the finisher for the 49ers. And I think we're going to see more of that to come for Nick Bosa this season. This is a revamped defensive line, I think as the season goes on, we're going to see our rookies get in there, and I think they're going to wreak havoc. And they kind of did yesterday. And Robert Saleh, that's just another added bonus with Robert Saleh. He knows how to dial up these packages. Bosa going in left, going in right. Guys switching assignments and everything. And Bosa just making the final play, making the final stand for the 49ers to help to win this game for the team was just absolutely huge. And I really expect Bosa to be, 10 times better than he was last year. The defensive line wasn't, it was just the whole defense last year with Nick Sorensen was just bad. But the fact that the 49ers have the 2 takeaways now, the 2 fumbles that they had yesterday was just huge news for the 49ers. And they were a bend, don't break defense, and it's what you want. The offense, looked pretty good. The defense, having the offenses back at the end of the game after Brock Purdy led them down the field with a game-winning touchdown, is something that you love to see. And there's going to be growing pains, like I said. But it was just great stuff, guys. Defensive stars, I already listed them off. Marquise Siegel, he had a couple tackles in the game. D. Winters, Nick Bosa, and then Upton Stout, honorable mention. Like I said, he got better throughout the game, and I think he's only going to get better throughout the game. And, I didn't even talk about Diamador Lenore. You know why? Because we didn't have to talk about Diamador Lenore because the Seahawks barely even threw that way. Lenore is going to be this lockdown corner for the 49ers this year. He's going to be what Charvarius Ward was the past couple seasons. He's newly paid as well. After last, he's making $92 million a year. So more good things to come from Diamador Lenore this season. And I just loved it. He was pretty shut down yesterday. So obviously you saw the Seahawks going more towards Renardo Green and Upton Stout. So when you don't hear a lot about a cornerback, that's a good sign. That means they're doing their job as well. That means the offense of the opposing team isn't going to be throwing their way so much. So I know I talked about, that's a lot of the good stuff that happened in this game. It wasn't pretty in some of it. I was happy to see the defense continue to get better, only give up 13 points in this game. Now I think we just got to talk about the elephant in the room. And it's the special teams. This is the weakest link on the 49ers this season. And it's a shame because they invested so much in the special teams. They knew that it was atrocious last season. just guys, the opposing teams on punt returns and kick returns, just getting so much yardage. There's so much open field. Guys weren't making tackles last year. All during the offseason, the 49ers invested in the free agency of signing these guys that were going to be good for special teams. I haven't seen it. I wasn't impressed with special teams yesterday. And I'm not even talking about Jake Moody, but Sky Moore, who the 49ers got from Kansas City, he had a muff punt. He did recover it, but I wasn't impressed with any of his returns yesterday. Garendo had a muff kick return. I think he still recovered it as well. Wasn't happy with that. 2 penalties on special teams. One was on Jair Brown. I forgot what the other one was. And then the blocked field goal, which was after Jake Moody missed his 27-yarder. So not happy with special teams. Brant Boyer's got to get his boys back in check. But now we just brought up the name that should not be spoken, Jake Moody. Missed a 27-yard field goal. When is Kyle Shanahan going to take this man off the team, We saw it in the preseason. He missed a couple already, easy ones. And then with the game winner, I think it was against the Raiders. He had the 59-yard field goal for the game winner. Wow, Jake Moody's back. And then the next week, he comes back. Oh, misses an extra point. So Shannon, after this game, he said that there's no question that Jake Moody's job is safe. He kind of backtracked on that after he said that in the press conference. But Jake Moody is the biggest liability on the 49ers. I'm putting that on the front page of a magazine right now. Jake Moody shouldn't be on this team. He shouldn't have flown back with the 49ers, back to Levi's, back to Santa Clara yesterday. They should have let them in Seattle. And, I was talking about this yesterday too. The reason why Shanahan hasn't cut Jake Moody from this team is because he was a 3rd-round pick, right? Shanahan has a big ego, has a gigantic head, and he doesn't want to hear everybody in the media, the fans saying, I told you so. Why would you draft a kicker in the 3rd round? And on top of that, he actually sucks too. When Jake Moody goes out there to kick the ball, I don't know if it's going to go wide left 50 yards or if it's going to go right down the middle. But when it goes right down the middle, I mean, he never kicks a ball right down the middle. 27 yards, doinks it off the left upright. I could probably do it. I might make a video this week showing my kicking skills that I don't even have, but I think I could kick straighter than Jake Moody. I'm just saying. Jake Moody's still on this team, and like I said, Shanahan's too big of an ego to cut him. And I think what's going to happen, someone brought this up yesterday, is that they're not going to cut Jake Moody until he loses the Niners a game. He's going to miss the game-winning kick, and that's when Shanahan's going to cut him, which just makes no sense to me if that actually does happen. Why would you wait until Jake Moody loses you a game this season when he's already lost you games in the previous season before of missing field goals and missing extra points to have it happen again this season, Because I'm expecting Niners do have an easier schedule this season, right? But I think it's going to be some growing pains. I only have them winning 11 games this season. I think they're only going to go 11-6. What if one of these games that the 49ers should win is lost by Jake Moody, and then the 49ers only win 10-7 this season and miss out on the playoffs? I can see that happening right now, and we could go back to that game before Jake Moody was cut off this team. Hopefully, Jake Moody is cut this week. I'm not positive on it though, but I'm not a fan of Jake Moody. I'm not just Jake Moody. The guy is that's a whole different thing. I'm not hating on the man himself. I'm just hating on his ability to kick the ball as the 3rd-round pick. He can't do it. He can't do it consistently. You don't know where it's going to go. A 27-yarder. If you don't know where a 27-yarder is going to go, why do you have a guy on the team? Have Greg Joseph. He was back. He wasn't back. He was in the kicking competition with Jake Moody during training camp. The 49ers cut him because I think they're just trying to boost Jake Moody's confidence. It hasn't worked. If it hasn't worked by now, it's time to let him go. I hope it don't happen like that. I know Macadone forever. I feel you. But I can see it happening because Shanahan has such a big ego, I don't want it to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did happen. There's plenty of decently good kickers in the NFL. If you guys just watched the game yesterday, the Bills and the Ravens game, they picked up Matt Prater, who I think he said he was on the plane on Thursday to come in to Buffalo. He kicked the game-winning field goal, 41 yards. Jake Moody, I wouldn't have faith in Jake Moody to do that. If we had Matt Prater out there, I'd be happy. I feel bad for Jake Moody too, but at the end of the line, he's got to know it too. Like, man, my job's not safe. I understand I suck at being a kicker. I wish he was good. I really do wish he was good, you know? As a 49er fan, you don't want your kickers to suck. But time and time again, Jake Moody just has proven to the fan base and to the whole NFL that he's not a consistently good kicker. It's not going to happen. If it hasn't happened by now, the 49ers have given him so many chances, it's not going to happen. So hopefully the 49ers just kick him to the curb, just cut him. I don't want to say any bad things about Jake Moody, but the dude can't kick a ball. So that's my rant for Jake Moody. Go find a new kicker. Anybody on the street, call up Robbie Gold again. He needs to be a water boy or a towel boy. I just don't want Jake Moody on the 49ers. I just don't want to see his face anymore, just because it just brings back so many bad memories of how many kicks he's missed. But yeah, that's the biggest negative of this game, guys, for the 49ers. Overall, the offense I was happy about. They could be a lot better, but we have to give props to the Seahawks. They have a good defense, and this is a Mike McDonald defense that, he was the defensive coordinator for the Ravens, and the 49ers had one of their most terrible, and same with Brock Purdy, had one of his worst games of all time playing against the Ravens. Was that Christmas Eve 2 years ago? And look at this. The 49ers are 4-0 at Lumen Field. Brock Purdy was able to come back for the 49ers, have the game-winning drive for the Niners. And I think things are going to be up from here. It's a good thing the 49ers are 1-0 to start the season. It's even bigger that we're 1-0 now against a division rival so early on in the season with the Seahawks. I wouldn't be shocked if this season went down to the final game back at Levi's against the Seahawks, and the 49ers new all black uniforms, but that's down the line. It's a big win for the 49ers. That's some of the biggest takeaways I have from this game. And I think before we end it, I'll give, the lighter mood. I got to give the dog of the week. And if you guys have been here the past couple years, you guys know that I always give a dog of the week for the 49ers player that did the most, that did the best in a game that the 49ers won. So here we go. Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? The dog of the week for this week for the 49ers, guys, is Jake Tonges, the tight end that almost nobody's ever heard about. Jake Tonges on the team last year. He hasn't had a single catch in his entire career until yesterday. The man had 3 receptions, the first 3 receptions of his career. He had the game-winning touchdown for the 49ers. The game-winning drive, he jumped up, he snatched the ball out of the Seahawks defender's hands, and he won the game for the 49ers double-handedly. It was a spectacular grab. The man has strong hands, and just one of the biggest things about it, too, he stepped up for George Kittle. I think the 49ers finally have a solidified tight end too when George Kittle's not going to be there, because we knew, unfortunately, it happened earlier in the season. We knew George Kittle's maybe not going to be here every single game. He's always banged up a little bit, just the way he plays. Jake Tonges stepped up for George Kittle yesterday, and I think potentially, I know it's only one game, but Jake Tonges could be the future for the 49ers down the line when George Kittle retires down the line, and I'm happy to have a 1-2 punch with Kittle and Tonges on the field. Tonges I feel like he's almost done more than any backup tight end the 49ers have had in recent years. I mean, the game-winning catch for crying out loud, Jake Tonges, you're the dog of the week. Keep it going, dude. And then, honorable mention, you got to give it to Nick Bosa, just putting the hammer down, to have the 49ers win the game. Kittle out for a little while, but Kendrick Bourne came back. Yeah, I talked about that at the beginning of the episode. Kittle, he has a hamstring injury. I think he's getting an MRI on it today. Hopefully it's maybe a 2-week kind of thing, because it didn't look terribly bad, the Kittle hamstring injury. But yeah, Kendrick Bourne is back now. I think it's going to be, he's a good pickup. He's a good receiver, and I think the 49ers will have him just for a couple weeks, because remember, Demarcus Robinson's coming back from suspension. Brandon Ayuk eventually down the line. Hopefully Jennings isn't injured for too long. And then if you don't need Kendrick Bourne anymore, you're able to cut him later on in the season, because his contract isn't going to be guaranteed, because the 49ers didn't sign him prior to week 1. So Jake Tonges, dog of the week, guys. Do you guys have a special dog of the week? I could take some. Let's see. You guys give me your guys' dog of the week before we end this episode here. Let me see if there's any. Mac, you got your dog of the week out here? Nobody's giving their dog of the week. All right, that's all right. I think I said it for you guys then. Jake Tonges, he's my dog of the week. Next week, the 49ers are playing New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. It's a 10 o'clock kickoff game Pacific time. Potentially could be a trap game early on. Oh, here we go. Here we go. The D line. Yeah. D Winters. Yeah, he was a dog for sure. I think D Winters is going to continue to get better. He's going to be Dre Greenlaw 2.0. The dude was a dog. The D line won the game. Red AI. Yes, I agree with that. It was Nick Bosa, man. He was the finisher. And this is what great defensive ends do. And I'm happy to see Nick Bosa finally did that. And we got to see that in week 1. And I just hope that we get to see it further along, in the season. Hopefully he continues to do it. But yeah, I'm excited about this defensive line, especially when I think CJ West and Alfred Collins continue to play more. And I didn't really see it, but someone did bring it up yesterday that Michael Williams was getting triple teamed, and that's what allowed Nick Bosa, to come off the edge with a one-on-one. And I think that was the play to end the game, which was the fumble. But yeah, Bosa is the man. Hopefully he stays healthy this entire season. I appreciate it, Danny _4949. It means a lot. Thank you guys so much for joining this live. And once again, since you guys are still here, keep it up. Davis number 93. Oh, Kalia Davis. Yeah, he was playing a good game too. I got to go back in the tape and watch the entire defensive line and everything. But, this is like, once again, the 49ers defense is, once you knew Robert Saleh was back on this team, the defense was going to be better, whether or not the players were going to be a lot better. But because Saleh just knows how to get guys in line, But yeah, the defensive line is going to be great this year. There's going to be a lot of stunts happening. And Saleh's just got these guys in line. Kalia Davis came out there. I want to see Michael Williams get a sack next week. But like I said, guys, 49ers are playing the Saints. Could potentially be a trap game. Hopefully the 49ers don't ease up. It was only week 1, but the Saints aren't that good, but they almost beat, if you guys watched, they almost beat the Cardinals yesterday. I think Spencer Rattler almost threw a touchdown, but the receiver just dropped the pass. So it's going to be interesting, going to New Orleans. It's never easy going to the East Coast with an early game, 10 o'clock kickoff, guys. But that's all for week 1. Stay tuned for more First and 49ers. We're going to go live all season long, In the past, I've only done recorded podcasts, but we're going live now because I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the live. So thank you so much for joining, guys. Just make sure to please like, comment, subscribe to my YouTube if you guys can. I'm on the road to 500 there. We're on the road to 10,000 on Instagram, 500 on YouTube. Please go subscribe there to my YouTube, guys. We're going to have more guests on this season. I already had Mark Adams from 49ers Camelot come on last week talking about the Seahawks game. Going to be having some more of my buddies on here as well. So just keep a lookout for that, guys. Please subscribe. It means a lot to me. Follow First and 49ers, obviously Instagram, X, and TikTok. Once again, guys, go Niners and stay faithful, baby. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you guys so much for joining the live.
Touchdown! San Francisco!